Welcome to the FIsionaries podcast, sponsored by Alkami. I'm your host, Jim Marous. The FIsionaries podcast shines a light on the financial institutions at the cutting edge of digital transformation, providing you with the tips and tricks that will elevate your digital game no matter what size your organization is. On this episode of the FIsionaries podcast, I'm at the Alkami Co Lab event in Grapevine, Texas. I'm joined by a team from Kennebec Savings Bank in Maine. They're going to provide a perspective on the process of building a modern digital platform pretty much from scratch, and the challenges and opportunities they've seen along the way. We're also going to get a perspective on how AI may enhance the customer experience going forward and provide better ways for the customer to interact with the organization. Basically, when we talk about a work in progress. So, you're a $1.6 billion, as I understand it, state charter community bank, part of a mutual organization operating in the state of Maine for about 153 years. So things have changed a little bit, but certain things have obviously stayed the same. You have about 200 employees, and you continue to get one of the highest ratings in banking for what is now 30 years, which is crazy. But that's how you keep that partnership organization to keep on grading. If they think you're good, we're going to keep on asking them how we're doing. So before we dive into the topics, can you talk a little bit about each of your backgrounds and what you do at Kennebec?
Sure. Yeah. So I started at Kennebec right out of school in an operations management training role. Spent 2 years learning all the facets of the bank. Then became a digital services manager in charge of sort of the digital branch before moving into a business innovation role, where for the most part, it's primarily getting our business intelligence component of the bank sort of up to snuff so that we can support business innovation initiatives going forward.
It's a moving target, isn't it, Zach? Because it's one of these things that you've moved through the ranks in your organization. You have the legacy organization as a knowledge base, but you're also having to move forward quickly and try to bring the organization with you. So it's kind of a unique role.
Yeah, no, without a doubt.
So Jess, how about you?
I have been with Kennebec Savings Bank for 12 years, working on lucky number 13. I came to banking in general from an education background where I taught high school for 7 years prior to banking. So big career change for me. I've worked in the operations space. I'm currently Vice President and Banking Systems Officer. So in that role, I'm responsible for core and then work closely with both Zach and Amy and others to kind of those ancillary solutions that surround the core, like our CRM, our digital solutions, our data, and business intelligence.
And Amy, you have a little different background, as I understand. So what's your background?
I do. I came to Kennebec Savings Bank 2 years ago, and I was hired on as the Digital Services Analyst to really kick off and help support the implementation of Alkami Online Banking. Before that, I worked in the utility space for 3 years with their online website portal, as well as their mobile app and their alerts platform. And before that, I was in healthcare working with the patient electronic medical record. So I have quite a wide variety of digital background, but still very new when it comes to banking.
So it's really some legacy banking core people that are moving the organization forward, as well as a digital transformation expert that can say, here's the path we have to take and here's what I've learned along the way. So there's a lot of organizations that are talking about trying to move and do digital transformation. It's a term that is totally misunderstood because everybody defines it differently. But we all know we have to get better digitally if we're going to survive, because banking as we know it or knew it really has moved forward much quicker than we've been prepared for. So as I understand it, you have done the online banking transformation process. During that process, Zach, what did you learn in that process that is preparing you for the next stage of digital transformation, which is the core conversion, or it may be other sub-projects within that?
No, I think that's a great question. So the beautiful thing about Alkami is that they're sort of purpose-built to work with other fintech companies.
Yeah.
So basically what we're most excited about is we moved from a legacy provider to something that's sort of ready to go to partner with the companies that we want to partner with. So we can sort of just pick and choose. It's less about bringing an idea to our old vendor and then being told no. It's definitely a little bit more solutions driven. And not only are they willing to work with our existing vendors, but we're excited about a lot of their partners too, because they typically choose great technologies to partner with out of the gate. So
that's what's great about a situation like this, is that not only are you picking a partner that can help you down the path, but they've also vetted other partners that because it can take forever. I mean, yeah, I'm sure, Amy, you've experienced it, that the whole process of selection can take years upon years. And if some of these selections have already been made, so it kind of narrows the scope of who you want to look at. And you can find a partner that does certain things that you say, this is a must-have on the front end of this process. You learn during that process. So, Jess, in the process of the technology side of it, what did you learn in the online banking conversion that you think is going to apply the most from the standpoint of technology for the overall conversion, or even, as I mentioned with Zach, it's what I'm going to call sub-implementations of maybe it's a new account opening process or something like that. What did the whole experience of converting your online banking process teach you?
We learned a lot about ourselves, our customers, and our core. And I would say that Zach was spot on when he mentioned one of the biggest wins of going to Alkami is that this is going to be a much more open experience for future implementations. We knew it would be a challenge. We are on a legacy core. We were one of the first implementations Alkami's done with that core, and it was ultimately successful. But I think it really has brought to light those challenges and why it is so hard to make change and make real change quickly. So as luck would have it, we are doing a full 4 RFP. We're really looking at if we really want to continue to grow, we can't be held back by our vendors. We can't be held back by our core. And we've got to find ways that we can make these implementations happen. They're slow, they're expensive. We've got to find ways to deliver things to our customers that are meaningful and add value. So we know that we have a lot of work to do. Yeah. We have a lot of miles to go and I don't know that transformation is ever complete.
No, yeah, because it moves faster than we do on some cases, yeah.
Yeah, so we have come to a place where, we know that we need to focus on integrations with and single platform, single experience for our customers. That is one of the top focuses that we have at this point.
So, Amy, you've gone through these processes before, and while we focus on the technology aspect of that, we can't underestimate the impact of culture and top leadership, because it can stall or stop a process, or it can put on hyperspeed. That the technology is relatively simple compared to changing the overall culture. Or in the past, an organization you worked at, how do you deal with that? How do you make it so that everybody's pulling the same direction? Because you're also more than ever dealing with a situation where people within the organization, while they may say they're on board, in the back of their mind, they're feeling somewhat threatened that whatever I'm doing or working on could replace me. So how do you deal with that? How do you work with that dynamic?
I think really the key to any sort of successful change transformation project is communication. It starts with the initial message. It starts with a broad expectation of, we are going to make change. We are going to move forward. And here's how we are all going to move forward together, and just continuing to communicate along the way and complete transparency internally, externally, to the extent possible, making sure that there are, where we can help it, no surprises. And as things come up, making sure to just immediately, if you see something, say something, right? So if you are in the midst of implementation and you notice something that just doesn't seem like it's working the way you think it should, say something soon versus waiting until, maybe it will fix, or maybe it will work its way out, or maybe we can work around this. But keeping everyone informed from the top down of these things so that they are aware of what this end result could look like if something doesn't get corrected. And I think we did a great job of that. We had, routine meetings where we had a core group of people that was keeping in touch on, here's where we are, here's what's happening, and here's what we expect of this team. We need you to go back to your teams and, keep the hype up. We also, we almost had a full-blown marketing campaign just to keep the buzz going about it. And we had a team that we branded the Optimizers, and we really used that to, build this united front of people that we're going to implement this online banking change, and it's going to be great. And we had all of these champions cheering us on the whole time. And
it's a big difference.
And even through our implementation week, we all came on site, after the COVID years, and everybody's working remote. We pulled everybody back into the building and said, let's go. And we set up a command center in a conference room, and we had phones and headsets and all the things, but we also made it really fun. We had Spirit Week during implementation where we, Jess is a dog breeder, and she brought in puppies.
There you go.
So
when people can't work together, we're going to get these puppies to work together.
Bringing in the puppies. So, we really had a lot of fun. We had a great team, and the communication and training beforehand was spot on, and the escalation paths were well known. So people knew who to call if they didn't know what was going on or if they didn't have the answer. And they had plenty of resources to help. I think, we all hands on deck. I mean, it did not matter if you were a lender or if you were, security or whoever. If you could pick up a phone and say, thank you for calling Kennebec Savings Bank, we had you on the phones, resetting passwords during that initial implementation period. And, we really brought it together as a team. And it was very clear that the culture of our bank shined very well during the process of an implementation. So
you've worked at big organizations and small organizations. What is the difference in the transformation journey between a big and a small organization, or is there any?
I think it comes in pockets, kind of. I think if you look at healthcare, for example, those that are affected most by a specific change, there is a small company feel to that group or that dynamic. And it has its own personality. A group of doctors has their own personality, as does a group of nurses, as does a group of schedulers. So when it came to banking, each of the individual departments do have their own unique personality and unique needs, but we could find a common thread to hang on to, which is we want to give exceptional customer service no matter what. And we took that thread and we took it to the highest point we could, which is making sure that this conversion was as seamless as possible. Though it is very visually different than our previous platform, we expected that, but we wanted our customers to know it's still the same Kennebec Savings Bank, and it's still the same people that you've worked with for years.
Jim, I would extend on one part of your question, though, which is that fear of people's jobs changing or people's jobs going away and being replaced by technology. And I think that we're incredibly lucky in that we are a mutual savings bank. It isn't always about the bottom line. If we're going to invest in something like a new technology, it doesn't mean we have to cut someone somewhere else. Right. So that fear is largely something we don't have to deal with. But what I think the key to success a lot of times is there's still that fear. I've been doing my job for 20 years this way. Now what's going to happen? Now do I have a job anymore? Is my job going to change to something I'm not as good at? I'm not good at technology, whatever. Those fears are very real. But I think that we've done a good job, and a job that will continue to have to be done, to say to our employees, we want you doing higher and better things.
To reach communication, as you had too. Yeah.
We're never going to get rid of that need to interface with customers and give them one-on-one service. In fact, we talked about it the other day in the office that the pandemic, we trained our customers, don't come into our branches. But that's how we deliver our differentiator. It's not into our branches, see our people, be with our people. But the more we can free up our people from doing day-to-day things, the more
you from transactions to relationships.
Yes.
Yeah.
Transactions to relationships. And make the digital experience so it differentiate as well.
And okay, so Zach, you have to know where you're heading in order to get there. And the innovation process, digital transformation process. What was your vision? What was your, not endpoint, it's never there, but what was your setup as far as what your mission was to accomplish in the online banking transformation, but also as you're looking at the core side of the business, what are you trying to achieve?
Yeah, a lot of it is just a lot more simplicity. So one of the downsides of the last solution was, well, not one solution, but that there were multiple solutions. We had a separate retail online banking experience, a separate business online banking experience, a separate mobile app. So getting on common ground was important.
Yeah.
And then being able to, from that simpler, smarter foundation, iterating on top of that was definitely something that we were looking forward to. And the same question goes for, or the same sort of, in my opinion, thought process goes into selecting them for, like, what's going to make it sell? Can you get rid of a little bit of legacy cruft and just the way things were done back then that we've continued into the present? You know, can we rethink that? Because there's new technologies out there. There should be faster, simpler, more convenient, easier ways of doing things. We're excited about that sort of that synergy eventually getting there for sure.
During strategic planning a couple of years ago, we sat down and we listed out all of the logins that our customers need to interact with us if they have a full suite of products. They have a separate login to our trust services, a separate login to credit card portals, a separate login to secure email, and all those things. And we made it a strategic goal that through this transformation process, we are going to eliminate those separate touch points, those separate logins, and make it so that there's one customer and one experience to get to all of your services with Kennebec Savings Bank. So it's been a journey, but Alkami has allowed us immediately to, for instance, your trust customer, trust services, you can get to that through the same online banking portal if you see your core accounts, and you can get to your credit card account as well. So it's been a big one for us.
So before we sat down, you or I guess in the beginning of the podcast, you mentioned that we kind of did it a little differently than many would do. We did the online banking platform before we did the core. From a technology standpoint, what challenge did that put you in your way in flipping what is normally done?
Well, I think we just got through the process and we're in that place where we want to really start sprinting forward with continuing with the journey, and we're going to stop for a second and reevaluate the core. So that may slow our progress on the digital side. We've moved that needle really far, and now we're going to kind of potentially pause it to do a core conversion as that's a major thing. But as long as we're focused on the other end of that core conversion, giving us the ability to go even further or faster ahead, then that's going to be worth it. So that's been probably a challenge, because we're going to have to go through a whole new implementation if we do change what you
wait, this isn't new anymore.
Correct.
Which that we were talking about the fact that one of the benefits is that we're not starting from scratch. We're not and sometimes, as you mentioned, the organization has to start smaller rather than saying to rip and replace a core doesn't matter. It's not fun.
It's not fun, and
it's sometimes easier to sell. I want a new online banking platform.
Yeah.
So from that perspective, Amy,
in many ways, sorry, just to
go ahead. No.
There was urgency to improving the customer experience as well, and so now that it has been,
and it feels like core's back office as opposed to front office. Yeah.
I mean, if we forward core, and if we do a core now, I mean, not only is that a massive undertaking, it's a big change for our customers often. And when we moved to the core that we're on now, we did online banking, ATMs, cards, everything all at once, and now we're looking at this as more of an operational shift instead of something that's going to deeply affect customers, because their experience is going to stay the same or largely the same.
So in the online banking conversion, what element did you feel in hindsight you kind of had to scale back from what the optimum was, Amy, from your perspective?
I think we were making big strides ahead when we switched to Alkami. I do think we had a lot more functionality. And I think, some things were just a natural, customers understood it, like Message Center. We did not have that before. That was an entirely non-existent thing, and now it's a thing.
Yeah.
And so our customers saw it, they intuitively knew what to do with it, and they picked up on it and started using it. And it is an entire new channel that we are supporting as far as communications go, and our customers are loving it. I don't know that we had to necessarily scale back so much as we had to make sure that we were staying on our toes and being nimble and being ready to pivot. So we implemented multi-factor authentication as you do when you go live with Alkami. And some of our customers absolutely loved it. Some of our customers, it was an education point that we had to work with them. They don't necessarily love it, but they get it. So it's been an effort. But also with multi-factor authentication, we reached a point where we realized that maybe email wasn't the best multi-factor authentication method to have enabled. So then we did a whole project where not only did we educate our users on what multi-factor is, we also were able to encourage the use of a 2FA app over email. And then eventually we took email away as an option because it just, in many cases, provides an open window for the wrong things to happen. So we have had to pivot with some of the things that we implemented. And we are definitely making strides and continuing to course correct as needed. But I think overall, we really just are excited about all of the functionality that we did get and all of those quick wins. And then we've implemented a few other services like a quick bill pay. We didn't have that when we went live, and we just implemented that. And
Still a small effort.
it's not a small effort, and it's a seemingly easy thing for a customer to use, but it's those small, finer details that customers appreciate. So if we can save somebody a few clicks or a few taps, that'll make their day, and that's really, really our goal.
Zach, from your perspective, there's challenges, but there's also positive surprises that you sometimes get surprised by. In your conversion for online banking and the result of that process, what have you been most kind of internally gone, that was kind of a surprise, but also it felt really good though?
Yeah. Well, back to the question of unifying platforms and piggybacking on more single sign-ons to different solutions to simplify that. Another solution that our customers have loved is aggregative accounts, which we didn't expect as much adoption with that as we've gotten. So that's been a pleasant surprise. It just means that our customers are using us as their sort of single financial institution and bringing a lot more of their accounts into our experience.
That's huge right now with people switching so much, and they can only, the easier it is to switch, the more likely you're going to get those switches. But we have a lot of silent attrition going on in the industry where people can one click go to Acorns, one click go to SoFi, one click go to Robinhood, and sometimes we don't really know we've lost parts of that relationship. But to have that capability is certainly a big positive, and it puts you in a great position compared to your competition, where if their process is not seamless, if their online banking app is hard to use, eventually people hear, have you seen how easy this is? So that's obviously a big advantage as well.
Without doubt.
Well,
So-
also
go ahead.
to jump off that, we now have access to the data that supports all of what we're talking about, right? We didn't before. We had no idea where people were clicking or tapping, or we had zero insight into a lot of the features and functions
Oh,
that
that's
we-
night and day.
we were generally speaking kind of guessing, like, I use quick bill pay, so they must use quick bill pay, or I do this, so you must do that. But now we have data to support all of that, and we can use that to drive our decisions or to drive a decision to not do something, right? So really getting access to the information, seeing how many people aggregated accounts or linked for ACH transfers. Now that we can see that, we know what's happening.
Fundflow is an amazing tool that most organizations still don't access, even though it's out there if you build it. But knowing where people are moving their money at any time. We had a deposit squeeze, about a year and a half ago, and to know where the money's going helps you get it back. Yeah. So Jess, from the information standpoint, what do you do with all this insight?
We're still working that out. No, but one of the things that's phenomenal that we also didn't have before was the ability to pop up target marketing and to segregate our customers and to have total control over the messaging in our online banking. So that is something that we are excited to work with our marketing team on. They are growing their team to somebody who's really going to be focused around digital marketing, and I'm so excited for that. But so basically, I guess in a nutshell, that's a part of the journey that we're still figuring out. We've got floods of data now.
Yeah.
How do we leverage it to the best ends? And it has, we are seeing that change throughout our organization when a new position is posted, looking for someone who's going to be able to support that digital channel. And so, the evidence of adding a marketing manager who is going to be focused around digital and social, it's just part of our journey.
So that said, what's your vision? I'll ask this of all three of you. what's the vision of the utilization of data? Because at the end of the day, the access to data throughout an organization is an extraordinarily powerful tool. It's also what your customers are expecting. They're expecting a relationship or a engagement that's similar to a Netflix or similar to a Hulu or a Amazon or you pick the organization, digital organization. They expect you to know them, understand them, and reward them accordingly. How do you make that start? Because marketing, you can give them the tools, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's easy to implement. What's your vision?
It's a snowball. We certainly do start small.
I love how you said that. And it looks like that term's been used before because it made everybody smile.
Yeah, no, because I think it's always easier to, do the low-hanging fruit first and automate processes based on the data.
Yeah.
Automate reports. But then eventually build, demonstrate value by saying, we could do this. We could use this information to drive this decision. And then building on that, and then building on that. And eventually you're actually using it to understand your customer, to your point, to predict their behavior, to understand where things might not be making sense in the user experience flow, where things can be tweaked, optimized, packages changed. That all comes with time. And we're doing it on a very small scale, but it's not...
You have a lot of moving parts, though, with, not only the new stuff, but what you're looking to do in the future. A lot of people have to get involved and make it all work.
Right. No, we have to sell people on the value of it, too. So I think we see it, but it's an organizational effort. So it's not that people in the abstract understand it, but they're busy too. So it's important.
And you got to buy in, if you're going to democratize that and give the tools to the employees. Because most of us came from a legacy organization that said, okay, you want that information, you got to go to the IT department. You got to go to Bob, or Betty, and you got to get it from them. And now the most powerful organizations are letting Bob, Betty, Tom, Sue, all the people in the organization have access to make it so they can make better products, so they can make better communications, so they can get better information to build better solutions. So what do you see as the benefit on the data side for you?
I think that the online banking data is super important in and of itself for all kinds of reasons, but it's part of a bigger picture of the customer. So for me, one of the biggest values is getting that online banking subset of data into a centralized warehouse where we can use that in conjunction with what we know about you from other systems, other solutions are for, to really paint a picture of who is this customer, who is Jim, and what does Jim want? And then being able to, instead of sending, and I know I used marketing earlier as an example, but instead of sending out an advertisement, spray and pray, right? Like we can be more clear and try to meet our customers where they are, serve them better, right? Because at the end of the day, customer service is how we all differentiate ourselves. And if it's not good service to ask Zach 16 times if he wants the same thing when it doesn't make any sense based on his relationship, what makes sense is being able to say, based on these things we already know about Zach, we can offer him the best solution for him. And again, it's that move from making widgets to having a relationship with the customer.
I think it's exciting too because your organization now is used to working with partners to build something pretty cool. The ability to then use partners to find case studies to do the low-hanging fruit as mentioned and to be able to move forward. You've experienced this before, digital transformation. All of a sudden the light comes on and the potential almost overwhelms you because you have so much you can do. But when you're working on the overall transformation of organization, it's really more than the technology. How do you bring the people in to engage them in what's next?
We are really trying to focus on making sure that our employees see it and use it first whenever possible. So we actually have a package built in the platform that is just for our employees. So when and where possible, our employees should see it first. So we very recently did a project where we used the data to see that our customers were having a lot of trouble finding certain key features within our online banking menus. And so we took that data and we also worked with Ty and his team on user experience to try to figure out what is the best way to reorganize the navigation of our online banking and our app, because it was clunky. There was something not right, and having no data to go on during implementation, we did what we thought would work, and it was time to fine tune it. So we used the data, we used the user experience team at Alkami, and we rolled this out to our employees about a week ahead of time and said, give us your feedback, tell us what you think.
Yeah.
And just let them get their hands on this new, very minor tweaks, but this new experience. And what's interesting about it is we did not hear a peep. Not in a bad way, but in a really good way, because the changes that we made were so intuitive that they didn't even notice that we had done it.
Which is crazy.
And they
because I don't know if you've ever done an office move, but a picture gets put in a new place, people freak out.
Right. Do not move things to the grocery store. But we just moved the entire layout of online banking in a significant but simple way. And we heard nothing from anybody.
Yeah.
No complaints, no negative feedback. And our whole team is in a united agreement that what we did makes sense and we like it.
And then when you heard all the input from your customers, when you finally did the conversion, positive and negative, all your employees got to get within that and say, we need to change this, we need to keep this the same. And they learned because they were surrounded by people that were moving it forward, the way to answer questions to move it forward as opposed to, grumbling about it. So you've experienced something that most organizations only dream of. I mean, you think that, we're the last one to do an online banking platform conversion, but the reality is you're not. What recommendation would each of you have to other organizations about to embark upon this? What's the one thing you tell them to do?
Well, there were a few things that I think. Right. I don't actually have a decent answer for that. Anyone else want to bail me out on that?
It's what we have achieved.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I would say expect the unexpected, and as I mentioned earlier, just be ready to communicate. It's never a matter of pointing fingers or blaming. It's about collaborating and making it right. So, or, maybe you see something and it's really cool and maybe that's a good selling point.
Yeah.
Right. So don't hold on to that information for yourself. Make sure you share it widely and communicate it to anybody that will listen to you. Because I think it is really important to share all of the great features and functions that you find while also remaining transparent if there is something.
Gets down to communication.
Yes.
It also gets down to, as I'm seeing you three work together, teamwork. You guys are on the same page. I mean, it's very clear from the moment I met you. You're like three-headed person that basically you work together to get it done. But to have that mission, to have that let's go forward committedly, and to have that ability to fall back on others to say, I'm stumbling today, I need some help on that. What was your recommendation?
I think for us and for anybody starting this journey, just remember it's a journey. You're not going to snap your fingers and everything's going to be perfect. You're not going to snap your fingers and know exactly how to do every single little thing. There will be challenges, there will be roadblocks. But I would say, if you go into something expecting to know every little thing that could ever possibly happen and how everything is going to work out in the end and how you're going to use all that data and how everything, then you're going to spend more time in analysis paralysis and less time making movement. Any movement forward is progress. And so even if it's small, this is a journey, and keep that at the top of your mind. It doesn't have to be perfect the first time, and it won't be. And there will always be things that you want to go back around, and next iteration, we want to tackle this, or we want to launch that. We're 18 months post go live with Alkami, and there are still features we haven't rolled out to customers yet, because we knew that was going to take bigger institutional change and conversations to make those happen. So it's not a snap your fingers and tomorrow everything's perfect. It's a journey. It's a
process.
Yeah, it's a process.
Zach, Jess, Amy, thank you so much. It's fun because I get the feeling, number one, you know you're not done. Number two, you've accomplished a lot, which is kind of cool. You're doing things that large organizations can't get their hands around because they're scared to death of that change. And obviously, it takes top management support somewhere there to say, we're going to sign the check, we're going to commit to it, because you're only going to make time in the day for those things that the organization's committed to. You wouldn't have come on board, you both wouldn't have stayed if you were saying, I'm hitting my head against a brick wall. So thank you so much for being on the show. You've shared a lot. It's our first 4-person podcast. Can't do that very well on a split screen, but I appreciate your time. It's been great to learn from your journey, and it'll be interesting to see where you are a year from now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the FIsionaries podcast. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the tips and tricks that can help you elevate your digital transformation game. If you enjoyed our episode, be sure to save it and share it with those in your organization and even people outside your organization that this can help. This has been a production of Evergreen Podcast. A special thank you to our senior producer, Leah Hathledge, and our video and audio engineer, Will Pritz.